Welcome, everybody, to the Agile Austin Leaders Special Interest Group. Thank you for being here. I'll go through a few intro slides as fast as possible, and we'll get through our presentation of the day. So here at the Agile Austin organization, we connect, we collaborate, we grow. We are a 501c nonprofit. So, we've been here since 2007, and we just share Agile best practices and knowledge. We share the Agile love, folks. Max Akesi, I've been in Austin for 22 years now. I have been facilitating this leaders SIG for 13 years, and besides being the president of Agile Austin, I've been on the board for a few years now, along with Ben, who's our CTO. Besides that, I do have a day job that I get to sometimes as, IT senior manager at PayPal. We've got about 1,000 people here in Austin at PayPal, and we have a blast. And the Leader SIG, here we discuss all things related to leading Agile transformations. And I just think it's incredible across the 13 years how we started off with telling people how to do Scrum, estimate, and story points, all this fun stuff. And fast forward, and we've just been talking about psychological safety, empowering teams, like stuff that we feel just so foundational and across the board. And today we'll hear like another aspect about it. So anybody that wants to help lead change and transformation, that's what we talk about here every first Friday of the month. And we usually have a guest speaker, panelist, everything. We do it here, folks. Membership and sponsorship. I'll just tell people we've done a lot on our site. Our site is phenomenal. Just go to agileaustin.org and you'll get all the information you want. We've got hundreds of members, sponsors. We are so grateful for our sponsors. We're just transitioning from our old sponsors to our new sponsors. We have Agile Velocity, that is our platinum sponsor. They've been in the area in Austin for years, big supporters of ours. And then there's Ad Meliora Coaching, which is a silver sponsor. Okay. And I'll put some of this sponsorship information in the chat so you can have links. And then very quickly, Agile Velocity does workshops and trainings all the time. Okay. So they want us to know that you can get 15% discount coupons just by having to use their coupon code and all the fun stuff. Okay. We provide this a lot in our internal Agile Austin Slack channel. If you have any questions, ping me offline. Okay. Agile Velocity and all the trainings they provide. So we have a lot of SIGs. Okay. We have a lot of SIG. Ben likes to brag that his SIG gets a higher attendance than mine does, but mine's been around years more than his has, right? But we're all having fun here, sharing best knowledge in coaching specific stuff in the coaching SIGs, the Agile at Scale that Ben does. We have a book club. Ned has been doing a book club forever. I can never seem to finish a book. So that's the only one that I've not participated in as much. Maybe we should start a blog club. Then I'll be set. I can do blogs. So leaders one is this, Lean Kanban. And then breaking news. We've got a product SIG. We had one ended in 2019, 2020 with like the COVID pandemic, unfortunately. Vishal is here, and he's the person that is going to try to get the product SIG started. And Vishal, do you have any quick words or anything you want to share?
Shout out. I appreciate it. Looking forward to, so yeah, I guess I am looking for two things. If anyone on the call is interested in partnering with me on leading the SIG, I would appreciate that. That way, if anyone's on vacation, we can still continue the work. And then secondly, for anyone that's on the product side, please do, we'll send out more information, but please do make an attempt to join. The more the merrier. And we'll look forward to sharing more ideas on the product side.
Thank you. Hey, Vishal, because we do have a gap on the product space. And I just feel that overall in the Agile world, we could talk about product and portfolio and things like that a lot more. Okay. So the best way is go to the meetup.com/ Agile Austin, and I'm putting a bunch of these like links and everything in the chat. Okay, I see that Lakshmi already said that story points are her favorite topic, so we'll make sure to invite you back for story points. Okay, I know you don't want to discuss. I've had way too many conversations on story points estimation that I'm like, just how about if you just find a way to estimate as fast as possible and get going, right? Who knows? And Ben called out that his QA SIG started in 2009 to 2019. So you have had a SIG for longer than me, Ben. I paid you respect. Yes. Oh, the board, as a nonprofit, we have a board. They're all awesome. I just tell people board@agileaustin.org. If anybody wants to shoot us an email, comments, questions, tell us how phenomenal we are, just board@agileaustin.com. And I put also in there the volunteer link, and I put these things in the chat. I'm just going through it because it's just general information. We've got people that are volunteering all the time, so we just want to make sure that folks are aware of that. And oh my goodness, Ka is in March. It's just great that we can meet in person again. It's going to be hybrid. So we have virtual people that have already bought tickets and people in person that are there. And I think that the key thing is just to share some of the links and our sponsors. We're still searching for sponsors. Also, we've got Improving as a platinum sponsor and our Agile Growth sponsor, Evolve Agility. And we're not taking speakers anymore. The deadline was October 31st, and we've got tons of people that submitted, so we did not extend the deadline or stuff like that. And we're just going to be so excited to do this, right? So for today, in a second, we're going to transition over to Ben and Lakshmi. Thank you for being here. And they're going to talk to us about designing your Agile transformation as you would a product. And in December, we're going to celebrate our 13 years as a leader SIG. There are people like Ned that just turned on the camera. You used to come out to like the first ones we had at CA back in 2010 and 2000 and I mean like 11. We've got some people that have been here all along, and it's just great to have been a part of this journey. And we're going to talk about the evolution of a high value delivering agilist, because how we are as agilists and how we deliver value does matter, and things evolve and change. Okay, there was a time where you just say, I'm a CSM, and hey, people give you a job offer. Nowadays, things might have changed, right? Because we're a lot more streamlined. So as we transition over to Ben and Lakshmi, I'm just going to say thanks for coming out, folks. And at some point towards the end, we will take a Brady Bunch Zoom picture, because that's just what we do at the end. Lakshmi's going to leave early, so she's not going to be here for that. Or maybe we'll do it just as you're about to leave. Hey, but please, can we give a warm welcome to our presenters today, Ben and Lakshmi? And it's all you. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, you want to hear a big Muppet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I take control?
All you got to do is share.
We'll just see about that.
Folks, if you've just joined, feel free to put where you're joining from. Where do you live? Share your LinkedIn.
How's that look, Max?
We see you.
Fantastic. Great. Hey, thanks, everybody. I'm Ben Rodilitz. I'm an Agile coach at Northrop Grumman. And when Lakshmi speaks, I'll let her talk about her important job that's going to drag her away about halfway through, because she not only has an important job like we all do, but important responsibilities today. So we want to talk about ways that Agile transformations don't work, and then maybe some ideas on how we can get them to work. So what I'd like you to do real quick is just in chat, and Max is going to monitor chat, type in just a few words. What's a challenge you've had when you've been in a group that is trying to add agility to what you're doing? Make it short, make it brief, and Max, maybe just read out 2 or 3 of them. Because I want to set the stage that there's an element of problem solving where you normalize the problem, where you decide, hey, I'm not the only one in this bag. So
Yeah.
are you seeing anything, Max?
Yes, we've got Rich that said lack of leadership engagement. And we've got Shlomi that says where waterfall meets management meets agile in Schwab, that became Schwagile. Oh, he even called out a company. All right, Shlomi. Ben says buy-in from developers. Yeah, those developers can be picky. Joe said no clarity about the purpose of the transformation. Ned said,
Well, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there because you just saved me 3 charts with that last one. So, Lakshmi, you want to take us through a couple of introductory notes?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you all for being here with us. I'm Lakshmi Ramastation, Enterprise Coach at Paciolan, Southern California, just like Ben. And I really apologize in advance that I have to walk away halfway through because this is a topic that's near and dear to me. So as we talk about transformations, oftentimes I think just like you shared in the chat, we forget why we even started this transformation. We forget, we oftentimes have an idea of what problem we're trying to solve, maybe even how to get started before we even understand the why. So I think the most important thing is to know why you're doing it and for everyone else to understand the why so you can be on the journey together. And that is the reason, that is kind of our focus for today. There's many reasons why transformations fail, but the one that we're leaning in on is no shared understanding. Because if you actually care to build a shared understanding and share that with everybody that's involved in the organization, then you have a much better chance of the transformation being successful.
So where this whole idea coalesced, this is, Lakshmi and I have done this talk a few times. I was doing some engagements for your platinum sponsor, Agile Velocity, and had some really good engagements, but the last one wasn't so good. And what it turned out was that we did not agree at the beginning. A couple months in, I finally talked to the sponsors, and we realized we were orthogonal to what we were expecting. Not that what they were expecting was right or wrong, or what I was planning to do was right or wrong, but just we weren't in agreement. And at the same time, Lakshmi's been working with product kickoffs using a method for product design, and it just seemed so perfect. If we had treated this transformation like we do a product, and that's the thrust of what we're going to do, we would have been on the same page. We would have been able to mesh our expectations. Or in the case of my last one, I might not have even been the right coach to do that because my methodology didn't match their desires. So the noted agilist from thousands of years ago, Aristotle, coalesced it really quickly. Well begun is well done. So here's what we're going to try to think about. What if we took our transformation and treated it like a product? How about, like when we do products, we identify who's going to be affected by it? How many times do we do that when we're doing transformations? Let's identify the capabilities that are important to that. What do we do on products? What are the functions? What's the functionality we want? Well, we have, and you'll see, a very strong connection between that and with what we do in an Agile transformation. Number 4, just talked about that. Let's set the expectations from the beginning. And then here's an idea for all of us Agilists. How about if we inspect and adapt? We kind of look at where we are and where we're going and see if we're on the right track and add things or change things, just like when we're building a product. So what are our expectations for today? This presentation is going to be around 45 minutes. So there's a good chance we won't actually tell you how to design a transformation in that 45 minutes. You'll see the methodology we're talking about is kind of a 1 or 2 day process. And the other thing is we're going to talk about specific ways that we can, that as exemplars for how to do each of the steps we're talking about. But please focus on the concepts that it's important to get a shared understanding. It's important to understand the personas. and that the way that we're talking about doing it may not be the way you do it. YMMV, your mileage may vary. So do the ones that you feel comfortable doing, do the things that are in the character of your company that makes sense. So what are we going to use today? The exemplars we're going to use today are for as a product development methodology. We're going to talk about Lean Inception, which Lakshmi will talk about, and is something she's very familiar with and uses with great success. And then on the way to do the filling out of the functionality, the capabilities, I'm going to talk about Path to Agility from Agile Velocity in your town, and something I'm familiar with that gives us a way of defining what's in the product, our transformation. Lakshmi, you're the boss here.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'll do my best to portray what Lean Inception is. So this really came from ThoughtWorks. Paolo Caroli really designed this, and essentially it's a way to kick off a product initiative where you bring the right people in the room that care about the success of that initiative, set a common objective and a working style for you to be able to kick off the initiative, right? So obviously with everything we've talked about so far, building that shared understanding is really key. So Lean Inception is a very focused form of inception. It takes a week. It's a week-long process, and really the goal is to understand who we're building this product for, why you're building the product, and go away with a strategy for how you're going to execute. You want to think about that MVP, because that's really important. How do we iterate and get that out to market so you can learn and pivot and move forward quickly in your journey? And that applies to transformations as well. So if you look at the Lean Inception layout, there's a lot here, and there's a few parts that actually resonate when you think about transformation. You start with a product vision. We're going to talk about them as business outcomes. You talk about who you're building the product for and who the transformation is for, which is the persona. And some of the personas you talked about, developers being, difficult to work with. And those are some of the personas we'll be touching in as well. You talk about what the product is, what the product is not. That may or may not be relevant for the Agile transformation, but it may tie into some other activities we do. The features and brainstorming, what abilities that you're going to be providing with the transformation, that's really important as well. What are those user journeys, which are, who are you building this product for? What is that journey for them going to look like? How are they going to be involved? What role are they going to play? That's really key as well. And finally, how is this all going to come together? So we're going to walk through each of these. I'm not going to read all of them right now because you'll see more details about each of these activities. So the first one, Ben, I think you're going to kick off with product vision.
Yeah. So in terms of product vision, if you're going to be building a product, you're going to care about why are we even making this product? So the corollary to that in our transformation is, why are we doing the transformation? If there isn't an agreement on why we're doing a transformation.
There you go.
Okay, so we'll go a little quicker to make up for that time. So just like in a product, you need to know what your product vision is. For a transformation, why are you doing it? And the A way, remember, we're going to talk about certain ways of doing it, but you may do it your own way. I like to use the Path to Agility business outcomes. So I will start not even talking Agile, no Agile speak, no Agile terminologies. I'll just talk to the people who are interested in inserting agility into what they're doing, saying, look, here are 9 things that you might be interested in doing better. In fact, you probably want all of these to get better within the way that you deliver value. But let's start by picking out 1, 2, maybe 3 of these, okay? And let's focus on those. And you'll see why we're doing that. Because just as with the vision for the product, we're going to focus on those high leverage areas before we worry about the ones that are not. Type into chat real quick, which of these would be, if in your estimation, the 1 or 2 areas that you would like to get better within your company that you think adding agility to would help? Are you getting things in share?
I see, yes. Shlomi said CI and MR, suppose the abbreviations. I said customer satisfaction and continuous improvement from Joanna, continuous improvement from Rich.
Okay. So the point is, if you were to use the P to A, the path to agility way of kicking off your transformation, you would say, which of these are the areas I'm most interested in? And then I would try to work. You'll see where making this decision early on is going to help you as you go further.
So yeah, go ahead, Ben.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Lakshmi. Or are you almost at time?
Yeah, I can maybe finish this part and then
Okay.
and then step out. But so once you are aligned on the business outcomes, it's really important to focus on the personas and who are you doing this transformation for? How does it impact the people in the organization, right? So I think we lost the screen share again.
No, I'm on it.
Okay, great. So obviously, when this transformation affects everybody in the organization, senior managers that are working with teams to deliver product, CFOs, so your finance or team, or the finance lead that you need to partner with, maybe somebody from HR, maybe a team member. There's a lot of people that we're serving in the organization, right? And we need to keep everyone in mind because we're going to be interacting with each one of them in a different way. Okay. And then as you look at those personas, what's really important to think about is mapping out their journey. What is their perspective? What's the role that they're going to be playing? What's their current experience? Maybe their struggles and challenges in the organization. And they're going to have some fears with this change that's coming, right? So it's really critical for us to understand the role that they'll play and what is their current experience, so you can work with them, alongside them, to really map out their future needs. Because once they understand the role that they're going to play and how critical their role is as we go on this journey together, there's probably going to be more participation and engagement from their perspective.
So, again, I apologize for losing some time. What I'd like you to do now is think about, because I know when I would work in a transformation, we would get the developers, we would get the POs, the Scrum Masters involved, and then we would do the transformation. And we wouldn't talk at the beginning in how we were going to do that transformation with the people who we were inflicting this agility on, my term, inflicting agility on. So the question I would like you to think about is, who in the process of adding agility to what you do, would you wish you had included at the beginning of this Agile journey? Who would you have that later on? We already had one answer, the devs. We don't always talk to the devs ahead of time. We just tell them what's coming up. And then we show them what we're going to do, and then they're unhappy. And one thing you hear a lot is people are rarely unhappy with a change that they helped design, right? It's not that we don't like change, we don't like being changed. So type in real quick into chat who you think was not of the more obvious people we have that we would include if we were designing this transformation like a product. And Max, if you could read.
And we have some, yes, absolutely. We've got some answers that are coming through. Dipali said sales. I said people that actually do the work. Being a bit cheeky there, but yeah. People who do the work as the middle managers. Okay.
Right. How about, so here's some other things to think about. How about the finance people? right? I used to pay for projects. I used to know how much projects cost. I used to know OpEx and CapEx. Right? You used to do your design, then you used to do your development, then you used to do your test, then you used to do maintenance, and now you're doing all of that in 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. How do I break those costs out? How about HR, right? You're spending all your fiber trying to get everybody to work as a team, sink or swim as a team, swarm on work, and then twice a year I'm asking you to identify high-performing individuals. Is that orthogonal? All of these things, all of these groups kind of get sideswiped by this new adorable agility stuff that we're doing if we don't include them from the very beginning. So what's the next step? So in this process of breaking down the functions of a product, right? What is our product going to do? You brainstorm about all the different things you want it to do. How do we do, what's the analogy to our transformation? Well, Path to Agility has this concept of business, of business outcomes, which we already talked about, decomposing into agile outcomes, and then agile capabilities into agile practices. And when we start doing transformations, sometimes we jump all the way to the practices. We just start teaching people how to do Agile, how to do Scrum, how to do whatever methodology we're using. And what the suggestion on decomposing what we're doing in the Path to Agility, and remember, any way you can decompose the business outcomes you want works just fine. But the business outcomes dictate the why for the outcome, the Agile outcomes, and they're achieved by using Agile capabilities that are implemented by the practices, or more simply and more easily readable because it's in black. The practices enable the capabilities that drive the outcomes that accomplish the business outcomes. So remember, we started with the business outcomes. And now what we're going to do is decompose those all the way down to the practices. And you can tell where we're going to get with that later because you can see where we're going in terms of we've already given you the MVP teaser, and you can see what we're trying to get to is how do we get to the MVP of this transformation from the business outcomes. So in that paradigm that we just looked at, the business outcomes that we talked about, one of them was predictability. In the job I'm at, that was really what they wanted to do. They had no idea how to tell the customer. We had an external customer how we were going to get things done. So what are the Agile?
Wait, so Ben, I see that it goes and comes. Is it something that is happening on your side, or is there a glitch happening?
Maybe it is. I'm going to be a little more patient. So within predictability, as an outcome, what are some of the Agile outcomes that go with that? What are some of the things in our agility capabilities and outcomes that map to being predictable? So here we have things like the ability to measure. If we can get the teams to be able to measure things, we're going to help with that predictability. If we create the visibility, then that's going to help. It didn't seem to do that, did it? Oh, you know what? When I hit the stop sharing is when it comes back. Are you able to see it now?
Yeah, stop sharing is not a good thing to hit. Yeah.
Okay. So,
but we can't see it now.
Yeah. How do we break down those Agile outcomes into Agile capabilities? Well, if we're interested in predictability and ability to measure is one of those important elements, then if we can get system level transparency, data collection, metrics that will drive that action, that's going to help our ability to measure, which is going to lead back to predictability. So what we're working on now is how do we decompose that business outcome of predictability down to the measurable things, the elements that we can do, and try to get the teams to get better at and measure how we're doing on those things. Similarly, on visibility created, if we can make the work visible, if we have a product backlog, if we get stakeholder engagement, that's going to help create the visibility, which is going to help our predictability.
And Ben, if I may just double click on raising the visibility. Like I've been preaching like visualizing work like so much in the last few years, where the work that is planned, the work that is in progress, the work that we're about to get done, if it can just be easily seen, like an assembly line person goes into the factory and can see on the assembly line what is the problem right there. We that work as knowledge workers don't have that privilege sometimes, but we have to use tools or whatever it is to be able to visualize the work ongoing, so that stakeholders, people that are expecting our services or products and everything, might have an easy way themselves to actually go in and
So when we were creating a product, we were brainstorming all the features that we would want in that product, and then we had to come up with a way in creating a product of visualizing what are the different elements of that product, and how can we decompose that into a way of working. And one way we can do it, is with old school story mapping, using stickies on the wall. And remember, now, if we take what we did in that last section and we make that analogy of outcomes and capabilities being decomposed functionality of our product being the transformation, now we can say, well, here are the outcomes we're interested in. And I've used two different business outcomes here to give you a better idea of it, employee engagement and predictability. We decompose those into, and again, using the path to agility method, 4 agile outcomes for predictability, 3 for employee engagement. And now we're starting to break it down even smaller elements, the capabilities. Those capabilities, just like in a story map, are parts of the agile outcome that are above it, which flow up to the business outcomes. So now, just as we would use a story map to help us deliver a product, design a product, build a product, deliver the product, we're going to do the same thing with our transformation, in that we're going to break it down to smaller elements. And those of you who've worked on products, you know what's coming next. This is a way of decomposing the work from the big rocks all the way down to the pebbles. Path to agility for me is a very good way of doing it. It's not the only way. And any of you who've built products and are now working in agile transformations, hopefully you're starting to see a real synergy between the two. Okay, so in Path to Agility is a way within an agile transformation of decomposing the business outcomes all the way down to the practices that we tend to focus on when we do a transformation. Just as in a product where we would want to get all the way down to the smallest features and then build up our plan on how we're going to do the transformation, just as we would build our plan on how we create a product. So the next step was to use a user map, which is a way of visually decomposing the big rocks, the big business outcomes, all the way down to the practices that we're going to do. The next step that we would do is to create our MVPs out of that. Because a big mistake that we make when we're doing transformations is we have the, I'm not supposed to name big consulting companies that I've seen do this poorly. So let's just say,
I mean, don't hate, Ben.
No. Let's talk about a large consulting company that has their 4.2 petabyte playbook and will dump that on their clients. And this is all the things we need to do. And what we're suggesting is to phase that, to sequence that. That's the last step that we have, is to sequence that in such a way that you create your MVPs and you create that shared understanding. We're going all the way back to the beginning. You create that shared understanding of what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and where should we be along that journey. So that if you remember that the kind of triggering engagement that I had, if we had done that at the beginning, 2 months in, I wouldn't have been discussing with our sponsor why what she was expecting to see wasn't what she was seeing. The discussion was a very good one because I explained the difference in quick wins versus long but sticky, enabling the people to go on. But if we'd had that discussion at the beginning, we never would have gotten to that problem area where we were a couple months in. So if we sequence, if we create an MVP, if we say, here's all the things we're going to do in this transformation, but we're going to do it in this order, and we're going to do this little bit here. Does this sound at all familiar to anybody who does any kind of Scrum or anything? Take the big product, the big project.
Prioritization.
Break it into small groups, prioritize it, do it a little bit and inspect and adapt. That's exactly what we're saying here. It's kind of doing a transformation by eating our own dog food. So creating MVPs and saying, you know what, at the end of whatever interval you think that MVP will take, here are the things you should see your team being able to do differently because of the agility we've injected. And part of that is also there are metrics that go along with these things. Then as we go along, gosh, you could even use a tool that visualizes all of these things we say we're going to do and check in with our sponsors periodically and say, here are the things we said we were going to do during this interval. How are we doing on those things? Is this meeting your expectation? Rather than starting from, here's all the things we're going to do, and then 2, 3, 4 months later, because there was no shared understanding, no decomposition, no quicker feedback, having some disappointed clients. So the last part of this, just as the last part of creating a plan for creating a product, is to create that MVP. So for instance, when we talked about predictability, there were a bunch of different outcomes that we were looking at, but maybe for the first tranche, whether you want to do it in a quarter, a couple months, whatever your interval is, let's just focus on creating better visibility, making it so that we can measure our progress, and let's give the teams ownership. Those are the 3 elements of predictability that we're going to focus on first. And we're going to break them down into smaller things, smaller practices. And we're going to track those, and we're going to talk about them and see how we're doing, just as we would with a team doing something like Scrum, where they say what they're going to do from a big project. What are we going to do over the next, say, 2 weeks? And at the end of the 2 weeks, we're going to see how we did, and do we need to alter our plan? That's exactly the way we're planning. We want to plan and then execute on our transformation. And if we can, go ahead.
Sorry, Ben, like I didn't mean to interrupt, but one key thing that you mentioned that is so important that I've struggled with a lot is prioritization. Like, to be able to tell people, look, if we actually prioritize work, we can at some point start to deliver things overall faster even, and it'll be better quality because we're able to focus our quality of our work, our feedback loops with people, and on the transformation that we're doing also will just be better. But some of the decision makers always want to maybe get as much as possible done, right? Like that whole perception of being productive and effective, and like, why don't we do all of this and everything? And it's just challenging, right? I've just had a bunch of those challenges when trying. I'm not sure if you found ways to convince people to prioritize and say, let's only do these 3 things on the top 10 list and not even take a look at anything else and get this done.
Yeah, and that's the struggle that we overlook when we don't plan out when we don't collaboratively plan out this transformation, right? If we decide what we're going to do and we just go do it, then we've left out the customers, we've left out all those personas we talked about from making sure that what's important to them is getting done. And if we treat this like a product, no product would be developed by doing everything at once. I mean, there are tons. Lean Inception is a way, but there are tons of different design methodologies that all have at their core, what's the goal, who's being involved in it, and how do we decompose the work to put it into tranches where each delivery has value, each release has value. So yeah, Max, it is a struggle, but I think by starting off with this kind of a mindset of we're designing this transformation together and we're going to agree on what happens at each stage that maybe you have a chance. Look, it's in product development, it's the product manager's job to ask for too much, right? That's their job. And we empower the teams to say, you know what, that's not feasible. That's not going to work. And that interaction, that collaboration is what leads to good product development when it works. And it's the same thing with the transformation. If we have that tension between what do we want and what's feasible to do, and we make that visible and we make that collaborative, I think we're in a much better shape.
Exactly.
Does that make sense, Max?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And it's just something that we have to keep on trying to do. No matter how many roadblocks we hit and decision makers that might not be aligned with that, we just have to keep on doing that you just said, making things as visible as possible, prioritizing, just key things. Thank you, Ben.
Good. So the last part is then, now that we've done this, we've collaboratively come up with our plan for this transformation. And again, I want to stress those two comments I made earlier. We think people don't like change. And I think it's more that people don't like being changed. Change is okay, but being changed isn't great. And that if you're involved in designing that change, you're more likely to embrace it and support it. So the last thing we would do in this inception, and Lakshmi, when she does a product inception, that will be a week. My feeling is for a transformation, that's maybe a day, maybe 2 days at most. But the key thing at the end is to summarize, just as you would with a product. And there are different types of canvases where you summarize for all to see. This is increasing the visibility, where what's our MVP proposal? For instance, we might say, we'll apply agility in ways to deliver value, which will improve our predictability and increase employee engagement. Remember when we looked at those 9 business objectives, a couple of the one that we're using are an example were predictability and employee engagement. So now right at the summary, we're going to say, remember, this is our goal. We're going to identify the personas. We're going to talk about their journeys. What things do they do? Leadership may be leading agile delivery. For the product people, maybe they want to learn more about lean startup so that their product description and delivery fits into an agile methodology. For HR, they may want to review their processes. These things, again, we summarize at the end, all the people involved in this transformation, these are the things that they have to take into account. We'll talk about the expected outcomes that we're going to do, and we're even going to talk about metrics to measure those things, right? Like for employee engagement, we can look at our turnover numbers. We can look at ENPS if those suit you. Even employee referrals. How many people are we getting referred? How many people? These are metrics that will tell us how are we doing on improving our employee engagement. In terms of predictability, there's some pretty good metrics. Percentage of complete sprint plans, velocity variability. These are things we can use on the back end to see how are we monitoring, how is our transformation succeeding or struggling. And then finally,
Ben, we have a question, like a hand up for a question. I'm not
Go
sure
ahead.
if now is a good time to take it or not.
Of course.
Oh, no, it was an accident. The hand went up by mistake. No problem. Continue on.
No problem. So then the last 2 things in this transformation is to share that vision. You've done a day or 2 days of plotting out, collaboratively plotting out this transformation. Now let's make sure the people who weren't involved in it are also made clear on what happens. That may be as simple as sharing that canvas. If you've got change management professionals in your environment, including them in this transformation discussion is important, but then having them share the message. And then finally, inspect and adapt, right? We're breaking this transformation into MVPs like we would a product. And at the end of each of those releases, using product terminology, at the end of each of those MVPs, let's look at what we're doing, measure our successes, decide, are we on the right track? Is it time to go to MVP 2? or should we reevaluate it? Again, seeing the analogy between what we would do with a product that we're incrementally releasing and a transformation that we're incrementally energizing is pretty strong. So, like with anything, when we talk about, planning, refinement, and the like, the answers, the outputs are important, but the outcome, how you get there, is as important as that destination. So hopefully you saw that thread all the way through, that the idea is not to just do the stuff that's here, but have the discussions at each of those points. So there's that shared understanding. So I'm going to leave it with you, and I'm going to give the floor back to Max and the rest of the folks for both questions. But I'd also like to hear if anybody has some ideas on things they may do differently based on what they've heard. Finally, I will make these slides available in a PDF for distribution, and it will have contact information for both me and for Lakshmi. So apologize for the problems we have, but I'm going to turn it back to you, Max.
No, Ben. Hey, we adapt, and we move forward. Okay. But wait, we might have time for a question or two. Like, as we're talking about all this, a lot of things came up in mind, but I've spoken enough. That's my questions. I love that you've confirmed things, Ben. Sometimes a big part of having to come to these sessions is to, get some confirmation, because sometimes I say things and I'm the only person in the room saying it. I start to think, am I the crazy one here? Am I the crazy one? Because, visualizing work and making everything that you do visible and transparent to everybody, stakeholders, makes sense, but it's just not a priority to anybody else, right? Any comments, questions? Let's give folks a second. I don't know if we saw anything in chat.
I see a hand up from Dipali.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, Dipali.
Okay, I kind of have a question. I don't really know how to phrase it.
Try.
But I'll just start. Okay, so I love the idea of running a transformation like a product, and I don't think you'll have any problem including product stakeholders at the table. Definitely no problem from agility people, Scrum Masters, Agile coaches. But what about those people that pay for the transformation and say, hey, we have to be agile? You get those people at the table, and how do you get them to participate actively?
Yeah, it's along the lines of what's in it for me, because I think first of all, you have to feel like there is a benefit to them. And I've been doing this for a decade and a half because I do believe it is. So the goal is then to start with the non-agile discussion of why does this make sense? And sometimes it's as easy as the business outcomes. It's are you happy with the predictability? Are you happy with our market responsiveness? Are you happy with our quality? And if the answers are yes to all of those, then yeah, they should save money and keep doing things the same way. But the answers never are yes. So Dipali, I would engage those folks and just say, look, here are the things we're trying to get better. Are any of these interesting to you? And the ones that are, then you can just go down that decomposition right then and there. I'm working in aerospace in hardware, and this has been a real struggle, and that approach is starting to get some traction.
Thank you. That really helps.
Thank you, Dipali. See what a good question and what a marginally good answer that was? Come on, there's got to be some
marginally good answer. No, spot on. Sometimes just having to discuss it, like bring it out, discuss it. It might just not start off the right way in your mind, then it just gradually improves, right, as you discuss it.
Okay. I just want to toss in I'm going to toss in a remark here, and that is that you mentioned specifically the CFO as somebody who you need to get involved in these conversations. That is absolute gold. Every time I've been in a consulting situation, figuring out how the bean counter can count the beans better and more effectively, that's one leg of the tripod. The people who are going to have to operate the stuff and the people who are going to use the stuff are the ones that you need to talk to in addition to the guy who's paying for this stuff. But definitely get to the guy with the money to make sure he knows what's in it for him.
Yeah. I mean, you can go down that whole project to product frame and start saying you'll pay the team and the team can do what it can do, rather than how do we, I mean, yeah, I don't need to say anymore. You said it better. They're going to pay for it. They need to understand what's changing.
Bingo.
And you need to meet them part way, you know.
And I just love having to end on that note, just to like, with that realization, you've got to include more and more people in the transformation. You know, gone are the days where people just say, oh yeah, just you tech folks start to do things faster. Go sprint. Come on, go sprint. Start sprinting. It's like, no.
Yeah.
So gradually we said, okay, product has to be included. Stakeholders have to be included. Finance is a key stakeholder. So great to just talk about it in that way. Folks, round of applause for Ben for joining, speaking. I mean, and even when interrupted, going back into it and speaking again, and you know, we got a lot of value from this, Ben. And that shout out to Lakshmi, who had to leave early, but we appreciate that you pulled her in, because a lot of this is stuff that, you know, she was passionate about, and that whole Lean Inception was just great to hear, right? So folks, I think that we have traditions, and even though we've been disrupted multiple times today, we stick to our traditions of the Brady Bunch picture on Zoom. So even if I'm scared to ask, hey, turn on your cameras and let's have a picture, because you know what? We do what we do, and we should continue doing it regardless of the interruptions that may happen. Okay. All right. I'll give you folks a second or two to turn on your camera. So what I do is I take a Zoom picture, then I post it on the meetup as a picture that we took. So yay. Marusi, I see you. Clement, I see you. Peter, Fabian, Jenny, yes. Thank you, thank you. Is there anybody else? Anybody else? All right, so we're taking a picture, so just act as if you're really having a good time, okay? Give a thumbs up, peace sign, like excitement. Hey, okay, 3, 2, 1, keep it. I got you. I got you. There you go. Okay, folks. That's it.
And I'll send a PDF of this so you can see all the stuff you didn't see. And at the end has my contact stuff. If you want to get in touch on LinkedIn, I love to connect with folks, but put a note in saying, hey, this is from Agile Austin, just so it's not some random thing. But I would love to connect with more of you. I love this group. I've started attending virtually. So thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Ben,
Bye.
Thank you.
thank you for coming around. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you around. Okay. Stay agile, my friends. Stay agile.